Welcome to No Scrub Club, NSSC. A little TLC inspired, a little medicine inspired, and a whole lot of inspiration from dope people doing dope things. Welcome everybody to No Scrub Club. We are your hosts. My name is Pierre Witsagarama, fourth year medical student.
And my name is Ornella. I'm also a fourth year medical student.
And my name is Frederick. I'm also a fourth year medical student.
Today we have a very special guest, and we are very excited to have Dr. Paul as a senior neurosurgery resident and neurocritical care fellow at the University of Rochester Medical Center by day and night. He is the founder and visionary behind Bold and Gritty LLC, a Black-owned coffee lifestyle-focused brand that shares the very bold and gritty stories of Black male success. He is a father, he is a husband, and he is certainly no scrub. Welcome, Dr. Paul.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Dr.
I appreciate
Paul.
it. Hey, thank you. Thank you, Nella. Thank you, Fred. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, we're very excited to have you. We've all done our research on you. I mean, some of us have known you for years, so we really just want to get right into it. We have a ton of questions that we want to ask you today.
Yes.
I can dig it. I'm ready.
Yeah. So you're a man of many hats, right? You're a neurosurgeon, you're an entrepreneur, you're a husband, you're a father. So you had your own lab as a medical student that was nationally recognized. And seeing where you are now, Dr. Paul, and how much you've accomplished to this point, did you always see yourself being this successful? Like, I'm curious.
Yeah. You know, when I was younger, I always dreamed of doing something big, you know? My father always told me when I was young, he said, shoot for the moon. And if you don't make it, at least you'll be among the stars. And, you know, I grew up, you know, just humble means, but my family always pushed me to try to be the best at whatever it was that I, you know, wanted to accomplish. And so I always knew that if I didn't make it, you know, that, you know, at least I'd be doing something special. So I've always approached life with that mentality. Just, you know, always just go as hard as you can, shoot for the moon. And if you don't make it, you know, at least you can be among the stars.
Yeah, no, that's definitely like this thinking of optimism, and it's, obviously you're clearly ambitious. How did you manifest all of this though into your life, right? Because it's easy to say shoot for the moon, but so many of us have these big goals. How did you get to where you are?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a long journey, right? And we could talk about any number of points along the journey, but I think a few key things really stand out. One is that, you know, they say this when it comes to raising children, it takes a village to raise a child, but I think, you know, that's so true, right? No man gets anywhere on earth. No man reaches any level of success. No woman reaches any level of success without a community around them just pushing them. So, you know, that started with my parents, my grandparents, my aunts, uncles, mentors that I had, people who just believed in me, who wanted to really just invest in me, encourage me. You know, when things got tough, and even during times when I didn't believe in myself, there were people who said, hey, no, like, I really think you should continue on. I actually remember there was one point in time I was like applying to medical school, and I got this email for this actually really unique program. It was called the Harvard 2+2 program, where you would do 2 years out in an internship kind of role out in industry, and then 2 years getting an MBA. And that actually sounded really attractive to me. And I had shared it with my dad. And I was like, hey, maybe I might like put off this whole medical school thing and apply for this and try and pursue this. And my dad looked at me like, he said, are you crazy? He said, you know, your whole life you wanted to be a doctor. You know, you've had other interests, but, you know, for as long as I've known you, that's been one of the most sort of solid, profound things in your life that you've been sort of dreaming of accomplishing. Why would you stop now? He's like, just look at your life. If you stop right now, you're never going to go back to achieve that dream. Mm-hmm. Right? If you stop to go do something else, you know, it's always going to be the easy way out to say, oh, you know what? That didn't work out, and just move on with your life. But like, you have an opportunity right now where you have some momentum, where, you know, you're about to take the MCAT, you know, just continue and finish what you started, right? Mm-hmm. You set out for a goal, finish what you started. And after you finish what you started, if you want to start pursuing other things or thinking about other things, then that's the time to really think about that.
That's a very, great perspective from your father. It sounds like, you had a large number of people in your life who encouraged you. Was there ever a time where you felt like discouraged or like you didn't want to do it anymore, or you were just over it all and you were just done and you wanted to live a different life? And how did you decide to keep going?
Yeah. I mean, lots of times. I mean, the road is not easy, especially going into something as tough as neurosurgery.
Yeah.
The junior resident years, they're tough years. You spend the majority of your life in the hospital. You're on call constantly. You're holding the pager. You're seeing patients in the emergency department, and you're the one person who's responsible for all the neurosurgery patients in the hospital. That includes, patients in the ICU. If they have issues, the folks in the ICU are calling you to either put in, a ventricular drain, do a bedside procedure, interrogate, whatever devices that the patient might have that the neurosurgery team is responsible for. Then you're responsible for patients on the general neurosurgical floor. But then you also have consults that come in, car accidents, gunshot wounds, falls, all these sorts of things that cause injury to the nervous system that you're responsible for going down to see in the emergency department, and you're just one person, right? So you might have, a patient census that's really, really high, and you can only be in one place at one time. And so I remember it was like 3-4 o'clock in the morning. I was coming to the end of a 24-hour shift. And in my mind, I was just like, wow, this is unsustainable. Like, my body just can't keep up. Like, I got 20 more patients to round on. I got all these notes to write. I got a couple consults I still have to see. And I haven't slept, getting palpitations. Like, can I do this? Can I finish? And, so I shot a text to my wife real quick, and I was like, yo, I don't know about this right now. Like, this is not sustainable. Like, yo, would you still love me if I quit?
That's heavy.
And what was really crazy is that literally it's 4 o'clock in the morning. My wife should be asleep, right? The 4-hour shift are on Saturday, so Saturday to Sunday. My wife responds right away, 4 o'clock on a Sunday morning. Like, yo, why did you wake up to respond to my text? And she goes, you know what? You're really tired. I always love you. We can talk about it, when we get home, but just plow through, just keep it up. Right. But she didn't give in and be like, oh yeah, it really is sustainable. It really is tough. You should think about something else. She didn't do that. Right. And she continued to support me, but through it all, she realized that, look, I have this dream. And, when I got home, she talked a little sensitive to me, and, you just pick your head up and you keep going, and it's not easy, but at the end of the day, the people, who achieve their dreams are the people who didn't give up. Right. So, and sometimes it takes other people, like I said, in your life to help you realize the importance of the dream. Absolutely. And the importance of not giving up.
And that village message that you believed earlier.
And that's definitely, we're definitely going to talk on the spouse piece and the significant other, how they get you through. But I guess kind of backing up, usually they always have that joke. It's oh, this is not, it's not rocket science, or it's not brain surgery. So for a lot of people, they're just okay.
I will tell you that joke doesn't go well.
Yeah, no, it doesn't.
It doesn't. I tried it. It doesn't go well.
Oh man. But for people that think about that and just this is super unachievable, kind of backing up a little bit, how did you kind of, one, decide on medicine is what you want to do? And two, when did you know that neurosurgery was it?
Oh man. So, I mean, there's lots of points in my life. It's hard to just pinpoint one one specific point. I knew from a young age that I was interested in science. I also had interest like in arts and entrepreneurship and business, but medicine was the thing that sort of kept hold of me. When I was in the third grade, just interesting experience. At that point in time, I like every kid, I had a really short attention span. All I wanted to do was go outside and play ball, hang out, with neighborhood, friends. I had just no sense of focus, and I was really just bored. So one of the things that my parents did was every day that I came home, they made me read a chapter in the book Gifted Hands and write a one-page report on that chapter. That was before I could take a snack. It was before I could dribble a basketball, before I could do my regular homework, before I could do anything. I had to do that. My mom had to approve the paper, make sure it was legit, make sure I actually read it and understood and processed it and thought analytically about what was happening in the narrative story.
Are your parents African? They sound African.
What'd you say?
So your parents sound African with that.
Hey, we're all part of the diaspora, so I'm not, I'm black. My parents, my ancestors were slaves here, but we're all part of the diaspora. So,
absolutely.
It's same cultural concepts. They transcend oceans, right? So, it's in my DNA. It's in my family's DNA. Right. But that's a whole nother topic of conversation. But at that point in time, I was a distracted kid, and I'm getting sidetracked in the conversation. Forgive me, but
no, you're fine.
It was that sort of act that my parents did that really sort of changed the course for me. And one, it exposed me to a black neurosurgeon from Detroit. Mm-hmm. I grew up in Michigan, so the story resonated with me on so many levels. But also, when there were struggles at school, my mom was able to take actually the reports, the one-page reports that I had written every day. She took the actual book that I read, which apparently was at, I don't know, like an 8th or 9th grade level at that time, and I was in 3rd grade. Wow. And that changed the trajectory of my education from sort of being labeled as a distracted student or a student on the course of sort of requiring, special needs, to being labeled as gifted. Mm-hmm. It was like a complete, shift. And, with that switch, your classroom shifts, your teachers shift, right? The amount of resources and energy that are placed in helping you succeed shift. Mm-hmm. And I was really hooked. So from that point on, I found like books on, kids level books on anatomy and the brain and other things. And, it was just one thing after another that just continued to reinforce that interest. Mm-hmm. Fast forward to college, skipping through lots of other experiences that exposed me to medicine, but fast forward to college, and I had the opportunity to shadow a neurosurgeon that had went to my college actually and was practicing locally in that city. And I walked into the operating room and I saw him operating under a microscope. He was performing a microvascular decompression for trigeminal neuralgia. And if any of you know what that is, it's a patient who has these facial spasms that are so painful that many patients would rather commit suicide than continue to live with such pain. And so I watched this neurosurgeon under the microscope, right? I watched him approach the CP angle, right, which is sort of an angle in the brainstem where you have your cerebellum and your pons. And at the junction of this angle is where a lot of your cranial nerves exit. Mm-hmm. And so under the microscope, I see anatomy, right, of a living human, like breathing human being. I see the cranial nerves, right? Mm-hmm. Right? It's crazy. Amazing. I see the trigeminal nerve itself, the nerve that's responsible for this woman's facial pain. And he places a piece of telpa between the nerve and one of the arteries that loops down. And the thought is that the pulsation of the artery on that nerve causes maybe a short circuit in the nerve that causes this sort of these brief, lancing, bouts of pain. Mm-hmm. And so you place that piece of telpa there, and then meticulously close up the patient. And when that patient woke up, she was without pain. Right. And that was just a beautiful moment. It was like a light bulb that went off that at that moment, there was nothing else I'd rather do in my entire life. There's no other view I'd want to wake up and, look at, to be able to provide that level of functional restoration to, allow a patient to want to live again. Man, that's a powerful thing. So, long story, forgive me. But hopefully that hit sort of the highlights, along my life and sort of how I kind of was nudged in the direction of neurosurgery and medicine, and the sort of the linchpin that like really just got my attention, that pulled me in.
Yeah, that's why we're here. We want to know.
Yeah, it sounds a whole lot better than anatomy lab. I'll tell you that much. And undergrad. Man, it was amazing. But so for those of us who are either in high school or in college right now and are, aspiring to be neurosurgeons or even be in medical school and figure it out from medical school, what advice would you give our viewers? What is like one characteristic that you think that they should have in order to essentially get to medical school and then pursue their careers after that?
Yeah, so I would say first and foremost, do as well as you can in school, right? That's the foundation. I would say that good doctors are curious doctors. Good doctors are not just focused on science and medicine, but some of the best doctors I know, have backgrounds in arts and business and economics and all sorts of other things, dance, some other foreign language. Doctors are actually really diverse in their backgrounds, and that's something that a lot of people don't really understand. People think that, you just study chemistry and become a doctor or biology. So, my advice would be to find a passion that's academically inclined, work really hard in what I would call the hard sciences, which are biology, chemistry, physics, the hard math. But then find another academic passion and just invest yourself in it and try and get as great, of scores and grades as you can, and keep an open mind and latch on to a mentor. Find somebody in your community, who's a physician. It's great if they look like you. If they don't, that's okay. But just latch on to somebody who can kind of give you that step-by-step advice, when things get hard, as you're going along, you need somebody to encourage you. So find that person who's going to push you, and really just try to enjoy life. I will tell you that, half of the reason why, I don't even know if I can quantify it in like percentages, but a portion of the reason why I'm here is because I had people, encouraging me, pushing me. Another portion is because I persevered through some tough circumstances. But the third thing is that like I had the energy to persevere, right? And that's the thing that people forget, is that you have to be full of energy, right? In medicine, you can't be like a sleepy doctor, right? And I will tell you, I had lots of friends who wanted to be doctors or all these other sort of things, and they burned out in high school, right? They're pulling all-nighters in high school, trying to get all A's. They're, trying to do everything perfectly. And okay, that's cool. But if you're burning out in high school, right, think about how much harder college is going to be, right? And so there's people who, like, after high school, they were like, I'm done. I worked so hard in high school, I can't keep going, right? And then you get to the next stage, college, right? So some people did the same thing in college, the all-nighters, just busting, busting their butt to try it. And while, yes, it's important to work hard to excel, if you burn out too quickly, you will not have the energy to finish the race. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And if you're approaching every class as a sprint, you're not going to make it, right? Every class builds on each other, and it's a marathon. And so you got to figure out some type of system to where you're not sprinting, that you're pacing yourself, you're enjoying the journey, you're like loving the subjects that you're learning about, and not stressing out and pulling your hair about the subjects, right? And you got to find time to be able to enjoy the party, be able to, go out and have fun, do spring break, participate in all those things, because it gives you energy, it gives you life, You know what I mean? And it keeps you motivated to keep going. If you don't have those things in your life, you're going to get burned out. And, it's going to be hard to continue to run the race. So, that's my advice. Pace yourself, have fun, make sure it's fun. If, science isn't fun, then maybe you should think about something else.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with that, but the journey is just as important as the destination. And if you're not enjoying the journey, you're not going to enjoy the destination.
Absolutely.
That's interesting. I remember, actually when I was a freshman in college, we had an SNMA conference here, pre-medical conference at the U of R. And I remember you saying, like medical school, this field in itself is a marathon, not a sprint. And so that hits home. It's coming full circle now.
Yeah.
My question for you. So one reason why we wanted to create this platform, No Scrubs, is because a lot of us can relate to like the sentiment of, growing up and like getting high marks wasn't the cool thing, right? Like I remember back in my high school career, like if you were a basketball player, football player, right? If you were a musician, right? I had a lot of friends or people that I knew that were inspiring rappers, right? Or inspiring artists of sorts, right? That was the cool thing, right? So if you spoke like this, essentially you were, in many ways labeled as scrub. So why should people become a neurosurgeon, right? Like why shouldn't they aspire to be an athlete? That's the cool thing. Why a neurosurgeon? Why a doctor?
Yeah, I might have an unpopular answer.
We're open for that. We're open.
Yeah, you should just be whatever is fun to you, to be honest. And I mean, like, I know that, it's cliche to say, find a job that, you don't have to feel like you work a day in your life. But it's true. And it's easier to say that on this side than it is to hear it, growing up. But, if science is not fun for you, then like maybe it's not meant for you. And that's what our job is, Piro. Our job is to expose people to the fact that it can be fun, right? And they see us enjoying it, right? They see, hey, yo, we're not some scrubs. We're doing our thing. Yeah. And people might be able to latch onto that and resonate with our stories. And say, okay, all right, like I can vibe with that. Like, I like, what David is saying. I can see myself in his shoes. So that's our job, is to make that accessible so that people can see that it can be fun. But like, if it's not fun for people, right? Obviously everything is going to have hard work, and there's going to be periods of time where you have to just kind of grind through. So it's not going to be all fun, but if the idea of that grind, if the idea of studying science is not fun to you, it's not for you. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And you're naturally going to work harder at and gravitate towards those things that you can relate to, that you can. So that's our job, is to make them relatable. But like, I'm not going to down somebody for wanting to pursue some other career because they think it's cooler, or because they vibe with that, or they resonate with that. Like, if they do, I hope that they stay true to themselves and they become the best at whatever it is that they want to do. So my goal is, through this podcast or through any other opportunities I have to speak to people, if I find one person that says, man, neurosurgery resonates with me, dope, they can reach out to me. I'd be happy to mentor them through the process. But at the same time, like, I'm not trying to make everybody in the world neurosurgeons, right? Because if everybody in the world was neurosurgeons, then like a neurosurgeon wouldn't be able to operate, right? Like, I need a scrub tech. I need a scrub nurse. I need an anesthesiologist. I need someone who's like knowledgeable about like all the sanitation to make sure that the surgical instruments are clean. I need somebody to do the scheduling of the surgery. I need somebody to turn over the OR room, right? All of those things. I need all of those people work as a team for one individual to have surgery, right? And so if everybody was a neurosurgeon, nobody would get operated on. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Like, so my job isn't to turn the world into a bunch of neurosurgeons. My job is to help people find what resonates with them. And if they resonate with what I'm doing, yo, cool. I can dig it.
So speaking of other like passions and just kind of like other things that people can do in addition to not trying to make everyone neurosurgeons, like you're going to need people that are able to kind of give you energy. And one way to get energy is coffee.
Yeah, man.
You guys live off of coffee. So speaking of that, like, can you, Bold and Gritty, what's the story about that?
Yeah. So, it's a very interesting story and non-traditional for like a neurosurgery resident to kind of spend so much time doing things that aren't surgery. This past year so the 5th year of neurosurgery residency is like a research year. It's actually a required year where you kind of take time outside of the regular day-to-day activities of neurosurgery and you pursue a research interest. You do an enfolded fellowship. My co-resident is he's enjoying himself. He's out in Phoenix doing bench research studying the effects of vitamin D on the formation of aneurysms. My 5th year has been spent still here in Rochester, but in the neurocritical care unit, learning how to be a neuro ICU doctor. And so it's a little bit different pace than neurosurgery typically is. There were some crazy events that took place at the start of my fellowship that just really smacked me in the face, and really just made me process just life in a different way. And I've been passionate all my life as well about sort of the arts. I kind of mentioned that was one of my interests when I was younger, and storytelling in general, and promoting sort of diverse populations. And just really inspiring the next generation. Piro, you were talking about the SMA conference. These are kinds of things that I have done in the past, right? To sort of shine a light on what's happening and to show people that it's possible to pursue their dreams. So I started with this crazy idea that I would illustrate and narrate a coffee table book where I would take stories of successful Black men. I would take, their photographs or really nice portraits. I would do really beautiful graphic design illustrations of them, and I would tell their story. And this would be a book that, some type of like 8-10-year-old, will walk into their, parents', living room. They would find this book, they rip out a page, and they'd be like, yo, Piro, like, I want to be like him when I grow up.
Right.
I want to do what this guy did to put those scrubs on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right? I shared that dream with my wife. Why do you have to wait 3 years to share some of these stories? Why don't you share them right now? Mm. And, that was a really interesting challenge. And I thought about how to make that happen. So I kind of started thinking about, okay, let's build a movement. Let's, maybe brand the movement, start an Instagram page. And the name Bold and Gritty came to mind. It comes from this book called Grit by Angela Duckworth. If you haven't read it, it's a great book. A buddy came to me and he was like, yo, I think you're one of the grittiest guys I know. And this was after he had read the book. And I thought that was super dope, but I was still reminded of all like the dope and gritty guys like around me. Like you think about Claude and you think about Cliff, you think about all these guys who, are beside me and came before me who are just doing inspiring and powerful things. And I was like, let's tell their story. So as this kind of movement was getting traction, as I was kind of starting to narrate these stories, I'm drinking coffee, right? So I'm an ICU resident. I'm staying up late doing all this other stuff and drinking coffee. And it was like an aha moment. Man, I'm writing stories drinking coffee. People, they share stories with each other drinking coffee. Coffee builds community. I can use coffee as the vehicle to share these stories. And it just like all came together. And what was dope about it was that like I had already kind of been part of the coffee culture here. I had some friends who were really into coffee. And I'm starting to think about like a coffee bag itself, right? How do you turn a coffee bag into a piece of art, right? And maybe like how do I brand this as like the Jones soda of coffee, where I put these beautiful illustrations on the coffee bag, right? And then I share inspiring stories of black guys. Mm-hmm. Like, wow, that's kind of dope.
Yeah.
And then one thing led to another. I befriended a guy who's he's like a master roaster here in Rochester, and I kind of pitched the idea to him. He's a white guy actually, and he was like, "Yo, I'm all board. I think this is an awesome idea."
Right.
And so he took me under his wing. He's taught me so much about coffee. He helps us with developing our roasting profiles, and he's allowed us to have space at one of the local roasteries here to roast Bold and Gritty coffee. It's been a journey. It's like a crazy journey that I never expected. It's just like one thing kept leading to another, right?
Yeah.
And I'm trying to build something that's a little bit more self-sustainable for sharing these stories. And one day that coffee table book is going to come out. But right now I think that this is a really awesome way to share the stories like right now in the moment,
Yeah. We definitely want to like share people's stories, and that's pretty much like why we're getting started in the first place. So we're able to kind of allow you to share your story so you can share other people's stories.
Absolutely.
It's just
all right. So
a whole pipeline.
Oh, sorry, Fred, what were you saying?
I was saying a whole pipeline. Sorry.
Oh, yes. I actually wanted to ask, so coffee is one of your favorite things to do, drink. What else do you like to do that's, doesn't involve neurosurgery or coffee? Yeah. What do you like to do on the weekends if you have a weekend off? What do you like to do for fun?
Yeah. I like hanging out with my kid. He's a 3-year-old. He's the joy of my life.
Nice.
He likes to go out in the backyard and just like hit a baseball. He's just learning the concept of what a base is and how to run the bases, which is awesome. He's developing, his hand-eye coordination. Just spending time with him is a beautiful thing. I really like a lot of outdoors activities. I think that's just probably as a result of growing up in West Michigan. But I like, hiking, fishing. I like, getting out the smoker. I actually have like the barrel grill that I like turned into a smoker. So I like smoking meats, like ribs, brisket, chicken, and really experimenting with the different like profiles that like adding, different woods, adds to the like the smokiness and the taste profile of the meat. And just cooking it low and slow, which I haven't done yet this season. Last year I got to grill out a couple times, but if I have like a Saturday day off, that's an all day kind of thing. You get the smoker started, you have to maintain like a certain temperature over like 6-7 hours. But you just have a book, or you just, you sit on the back porch with a book, you write a paper, or, you just like, I just watch Julia run around in the backyard and you just enjoy the day, and then you got some great meat to eat for dinner,
Nice.
Yeah.
I seem to pick out, something in your messages so far where your wife has sort of been instrumental, in your journey, right? You mentioned earlier how, you texted her at 4 a.m. and she was up encouraging you, right? So she seems to be like this, this important piece in your life that keeps you level-headed. So my question for you is, what qualities made you lock her down?
Oh man.
We want to know.
I mean, well, one, she was the most beautiful woman I'd ever met at the time.
Uh-huh.
And she was just this ball of energy. And on some level, I couldn't keep up with her. And it reminded me of some of the really close friends I had in college that just like were just go, go, go. She just wouldn't stop. She was always doing something. She was volunteering at church. She was watching, she was babysitting or watching somebody's kids. She was working on a project. She was volunteering in some other capacity. She was rocking it out in school, and that just resonated with me. Right. Mm-hmm. And so I latched onto that. And I didn't let go.
Where did you guys meet? What were you in college, in medical school? Or?
Yeah. So I met her when she was a senior in high school and I was a freshman in college.
School,
I came back home one weekend and met her. And then we were friends for a couple of years and started dating just before my junior year of college. And she was, so I was a junior, she was a sophomore.
Wow.
Yeah. And we went to neighboring colleges in West Michigan.
Oh, wow. That's convenient. Yeah.
What quality in your wife do you admire the most that has made you a better man?
Ooh, that's a good question.
For some, this may be controversial, but I would say her faith, her love of God, her relationship with Christ. Mm-hmm. In many respects, I am more grounded because of her. And it's forced me, because she's like the perfect saint. And I'm imperfect. And so it's like when you interact with her, it's like looking through a mirror of my own life and how do I become better to match her. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that makes sense. And on many levels, she's like, she's brought me up, right? Mm-hmm. And as a result, I'm more faithful in my relationship, with my faith. And, I think that I'm more focused on what's important in life. And I think that's very grounding in a relationship and a marriage. I think two people should share a common, understanding and worldview and a common faith. And I think that that's the thing that ties people together, in a lasting way. So, we've been married now 9 years.
Wow. Congratulations.
And, I credit our faith, to, our ability to, to keep at it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's inspirational. So my next question is going to get a bit tough. This is a sensitive topic. But as we all know, last year, 2020 was a tough year for many reasons. But one of the reasons was because the death of many Black people was being portrayed on the internet. Not that the death was increasing, more so that it was being portrayed on the internet for everyone to see. And Dr. Paul actually wrote an interesting article called "The Death of Daniel Prude: Reflections of a Black Neurosurgeon." And he speaks about the death of Daniel Prude in this article. Dr. Paul, can you please just tell us what inspired you to write this article? And how did you manage to kind of, through last year, still be in school, still be a neurosurgeon and process everything and treat patients and see patients, but process how just the larger amount of Black people were being killed at the hands of police officers in our eyes?
Yeah, that was tough. Most people who've read the article will know that the article ends, by revealing that Daniel Prude, who was one of the Black men murdered at the hands of police last year, was my cousin. And I didn't know about it at the time that it happened. I didn't even know that I had family in Rochester, and that he was traveling from Chicago to meet family that I had in Rochester, right? I've been in Rochester now 11 years and had no idea that I had members of my family who were living in the same city as me. So that hit me home. That hit home pretty hard. One of the ways that I processed it was writing that article. Just to normalize the emotions behind sort of recognizing that and putting a call to action out there for our world to do better, for us in medicine to do better, and even outside of medicine, we need to do better. And that, everybody played a part in Daniel's death. Everybody's played a part in all of the Black men who have passed away. Whether that be complacency, whether that be inaction, whether that be ignorance. And we all have a part to play in making the world a better place. If we're complacent, then the world won't get better.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that stood out, especially when it comes to providing psychiatric care, this is for you, Fred. I mean, it's so important that you're going into psychiatry. We need more Black and brown faces in psychiatry. It's a problem. It's a problem. I think only like 2% of all people who work within psychiatry, and that's not just physicians, that's in, other aspects of psychiatry as well. All the numbers point to around a 2% percentage of Black people in psychiatry. That's unacceptable when 18% of the population is Black.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's unacceptable. So when you can't see your brother, your sister, your mother, your cousin in the face of the patient, you're just not going to be inclined to provide the same level of compassionate care. Mm-hmm. And so we need to do better as a society. So, it definitely impacted me. Like I said, I processed it through writing. It's inspired me to, double down on efforts like Bold and Gritty so that I can share, really inspiring narratives, of what Black men are doing in society, to elevate the culture, and to just raise awareness about, our stories. And unless we take ownership of our stories, like you said at the beginning, nothing will change. Nobody will care.
Yeah. And I don't know, that's, as I've been going through rotations during the pandemic, like the mental health aspect have been like something I've been continually drawn to, similar to how you were like really drawn to like medicine and really drawn to neurosurgery. And I'm already over here thinking about like what I can do like now and like 5 to 10 years from now. But I don't know, it's a lot to think about. But for you, where do you see yourself in like 5 to 10 years to kind of, I don't know, just give a picture of,
in 5 to 10 years, I see myself being an attending physician somewhere, most likely in an academic setting. I'm not opposed to private practice, but predominantly working, in sort of a neurosurgery generalist kind of fashion, with a niche in trauma. I think that that's an area where I think as a Black man in particular, I can really give back to our community. And so I think that that's really important to me. And, thinking about what sort of my life out of neurosurgery looks like is, continuing to be a family man, someone who's involved in the community. And, I hope to see Bold and Gritty really making an impact on more of a national level, and to be able to train up other people to be able to tell stories and continue to carry the brand forward in even more interesting ways than I could even imagine right now.
That's awesome. Beautiful. And I hope to see Bold and Gritty make it as well. It's doing relatively well right now. I've heard great things about the coffee, and you've got some apparel out as well. So definitely have to cop that.
Make sure you vote. If you haven't voted.
You've got my vote already. I put in
saying you vote, I got your vote, and actually voted.
Oh no, I actually voted.
What's this voting for?
And do you want to put?
I actually voted. When does it close? When does the
July 5th.
And do you want to put a plug in for what?
Yeah, make sure you vote.
And do you want to put a plug in for what people are voting for?
Yeah. So
and what we're all going to vote for?
Yeah. So Bold and Gritty was selected as as a top 10 semi-finalist out of thousands of businesses for the UPS Store and Inc. magazine Small Biz Challenge. Wow. So it's an opportunity to win a grand prize of $25,000. Be featured on a Shark Tank style television show with a celebrity host, and have a featured article placed in Inc. magazine. So there's 10 of us that made it as semi-finalists. The crew is going to get narrowed down to 5, and your vote helps to pick sort of those 5 who are then eligible to move on and compete for that $25,000 prize. So every vote counts. I'm competing on a national level with some well-recognized businesses that have gained traction. So I need every single person to vote. It's important. And, it's going to help us to continue to really inspire the next generation of bold and gritty people.
Absolutely. If you're watching this video now, make sure you go vote. This video definitely is going to be out before July 5th, you said?
July 5th. Yeah.
July
Follow
5th.
us on Instagram, bold_gritty. The link to vote is in the bio on our Instagram page.
Mm-hmm. It'll definitely be out before then. And just to reiterate, you definitely have voted for you already. You've got my vote.
Thank you.
Everybody who's watching this, go vote for DP. So you talk about some challenges, DP, that you went through, with the death of your cousin, right, Daniel Prude, during a pandemic, right? And so obviously you went onward and upward from there. But you shared that with me, that one of the biggest struggles for you thus far in residency is learning to grow more introspectively from every possible situation. Can you just talk more about that and exactly what you mean by that?
Yeah. So, that was just one example right there. And in learning how to be introspective, I turned to writing, right? So I wrote down my thoughts. I processed them. I sort of learned, I had to uncover my own emotions, right? So then that way I could deal with them. If I don't write it out, if I don't understand what my own emotions are, I can't deal with them. Emotions mean nothing if you can't describe them. Right. And, I think that's the difference between being an adult and being a child. Right. A child doesn't have the vocabulary to express themselves, what they're feeling. But as adults, we have that capability. So we need to take advantage of the resources that we have to do so.
Well, that's definitely well said. That piece, I read it as well. I know it was well written. Could definitely sense the emotion in that. Did you find that you had to change how you navigated in academia after that? Did you find yourself being more authentically yourself, or how?
Oh yeah.
Did you navigate after that?
There's a lot of internal struggle that goes with. Well, there's one thing to write something, but there's another thing to publish it. And conversations that kept coming up with people who were close to me centered around, do you really want to publish that?
Right.
Because once you publish it, you're out there. You're labeled as the person who's vocal about race issues. You're labeled as the person who has a complicated family situation. There's a whole dynamics of what does my family, my extended family, think about this? I reached out to some family in Chicago that were like, yeah, I'm on board with this. The one person that I was unable to reach was Joe Prude, who was Daniel's brother right here in Rochester. So there's all sorts of internal things that you have to deal with when you put yourself out there for the whole world to just know your business. Doubts of, am I going to get job offers if people read this? Are people going to want to work with me? Right? True. If they're going to feel that I'm going to be so vocal. So a lot of people don't actually make kind of moves or decisions like this till later in their career. But the thing that, and one person even actually encouraged me to write it anonymously. And, I said that, no, this is an act of courage. This is an act of, being a man. This is an act of taking responsibility for my emotions, my feelings. And, a man without courage is no man at all. Yeah.
Let that sit for a second.
So I think when you decide to stand up for what you believe in because you think it's right, and because you think it's important for you as a human being and as a man, and it's the thing you're willing to sacrifice everything on. That's the moment at which, you kind of like reach the actualization of self.
Yeah, that's definitely that bold part, bold and gritty, for sure. And I definitely appreciate it. Like, I know, like, you're a mentor for me and mentor for Piero as we're going through, and just like, I don't know. Yeah, med school can be tough. It is tough. Pretty sure residency is going to be tough, and then so on and so forth. But it's just been really helpful just seeing like the process that you've been going through to kind of get to where you are, and just be like, okay, well, if he can do it, I can do it. Which is another reason why it's just like, yeah, we need to get our stories out there. And like, sure, it's one thing to have this conversation. It's another thing to publish it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
We had the privilege, DP, to read the article. We have the privilege of knowing you personally, right? In some ways. We want to thank you, for coming on today, on our first episode with that, and, sharing your experience and sharing your wisdom. What we hope is that people can take from this and learn, right? Each one reach one. And that's essentially what you're doing. And we hope to pass that on to others as well. So we thank you for that. You're certainly brave, as you said. You're certainly courageous, but most importantly, you're bold and you're gritty.
Yeah.
And we hope to, reflect that as well. Before we come to the conclusion of this episode, there are a few questions that we want to ask you, kind of a rapid fire, kind of a series of questions. Just, so people out there can have some of the material that you dive into, for inspiration. First thing that, that I want to ask you is, if you could leave one thing, if you could change, one thing in the world, what would it be?
If I could change one thing in the world. Oh my goodness. I don't know if I can answer this rapid fire.
So you can think about it. We'll just edit it.
Okay. All right. Just unlimited resources for learning and education. Just free access to education.
Right.
Okay.
What are your top three? Or no, do you want to ask him this?
Yeah, I can ask him one rapid question. What is your favorite song of all time?
Oh, of all time?
Yes.
Man.
Your go-to song.
You guys are coming with oh, man. I Love Supreme is like high up there. John Coltrane's I Love Supreme.
Okay.
It's high up there.
Okay.
I don't know if some of the young folks would know what that is, but.
Yeah. I was expecting Drake or Kendrick Lamar.
Love Supreme. Love Supreme.
No, that's a good one too.
And what are you currently reading right now?
Ooh, where's those books I had? They're not on my desk anymore. So there's a couple books. Actually, here's one right here. I've been working through this one slowly. It's called Breathe, Guided Healing Journal for Black Men. It's by a buddy of mine, actually, Brendan Steele. Man, it's so dope. So dope. Basically, you can see I've been working through it. You can see like my handwriting and stuff. Like every day is a different, just a different theme on how to like just process being black, being a black man, and, just processing your emotions, your feelings. It's meant to be something that you do daily. I find myself, I get to it maybe like once or twice a week. I wish I got to it every day. But there's time for reflection. There's, each day is set up like you write down, like you circle your emotions, like how you're feeling for the day. So that's like the you good, bro, check in. There's an exhale section, right, where you list why you're feeling what you're feeling. There's a release point with a word and its definition. And then there's like expanded versions, so like, deferred dreams. And it just talks about like what that means. And then time for you to like map out like, okay, like what are your wildest dreams? Yeah, it's pretty dope.
Well, definitely sounds like something that
you guys should check it out.
And everybody should have, all black men need.
Yeah.
Certainly. Okay. Well, there you have it, DP, Mr. Neurosurgeon, coffee connoisseur, bold and gritty, and certainly no scrub. Thank you so much for joining us today for our first episode. We are honored. The conversation was great. And everybody, please follow his. What's your Instagram page?
Bold_Gritty.
Okay. And please vote for him before July 5th. We'll put the link to this page in our posts on our Instagram page, on our Twitter, and our YouTube page as well. So please give him support. He's doing great things. Thank you again for joining us today, DP.
Thank you, Dr. Paul.
I appreciate you.
Good talking to you.